Hi friends, welcome back to another What's for Dinner video. I'm so excited to bring you some delicious dinner recipes and even a cookie made with instant oatmeal packets. I bet you have some instant oatmeal packets hiding in your pantry, and I'm going to show you how to use this, so stay tuned for that. So let's get into these easy recipes. So first up, we have creamy chicken noodle soup. I'm going to get started on cutting up some veggies for this soup, but I just want to welcome you all back to my channel. If you're new, my name is Amanda. I'm so glad to have you here today. I do all kinds of food content, what's for dinner videos, so if you enjoy content like that, I'd love to have you as part of my YouTube family, so make sure to hit that subscribe button if you haven't already. But let's go ahead and get back to this recipe. So I'm just cutting up some carrots. I'm also going to start cutting up an onion. This is actually called a lightened up creamy chicken noodle soup. The recipe actually calls for some potatoes that I'll dice up, and that'll kind of help thicken it a little bit, so it kind of takes away some of the additional heaviness of heavy cream or the things like that that you could add to it. And this is actually from Sally's Baking Addiction, so I'll have that link down in the description box, and I'll always link any kind of recipes that I use down in the description box, or if it's something I may need to write out, I'll do that too. I just love a good soup, and we really did enjoy this one so much. Do y'all do soup very often? And if so, what's one of your favorite soups that you enjoy making or eating? Either one. I have to say that a lot of times soup is a great way to use leftover chicken. So this was some chicken I had cooked for something else, and I had some left over, so I just cut up. It actually calls for 2 cups of, it says you can use like a shredded roasted chicken, so you could really use like rotisserie chicken or something like that. That would be great in this too. And I've just got some celery that I had frozen and chopped already that I'm adding in, and now I'm adding the carrots and onions, and we're going to kind of saute that up and let that get softened and cook for just a minute. Once that's cooked for a few minutes, you're just going to add in your seasonings and your flour, and then you'll want to cook it for another 2 or 3 minutes just to make sure you cook that raw flour taste out of it. Now the recipe calls for garlic, oregano, black pepper, thyme, salt. So, but you always can make it your own. Always feel free to kind of branch out on soups or any kind of recipe really. Soups I think feel like are really easy to do that with, because I a lot of times cook soups and I throw in a little of this and a little of that, and it ends up tasting good. Of course the bad thing is then you don't remember exactly what you did. So but definitely experiment with seasonings. It's always fun to do that. So I've just got some chicken broth I've added in here, and we're going to add that potato back, or the potato in there, and then you're going to turn it up to kind of like a medium heat, and then end up getting it to boil, and then you're just going to let it boil for a few minutes, and then you're going to turn it down to low. And it said to partially cover it, not to fully cover it, so that's what I did. I kind of used the spoon to kind of help prop that up there so it didn't fully cover it. Now after it's simmered a bit, you're just going to check the potatoes and kind of see if they're have softened and they're cooked well. And now is a great time to taste it. I actually ended up adding a little bit of the chicken broth powder, and then we're going to add in that chicken. And of course, if you need any other additional seasonings at this point, this would be a great time to add that. We're also going to add in our noodles and the milk, or half and half, depending on which one you decide to use. And so we're just going to basically cook that until the noodles get done. And if it's if it's not thick enough for you, you definitely could end up using like a cornstarch slurry to thicken it a little more. It's just personal preference. I was trying to go for, I don't know if any of y'all have ever been to O'Charlie's and had their, I think it might be called chicken harvest soup, but it's like a creamy chicken noodle type soup, and oh my gosh, it's so good. So this kind of reminded me of it. The potatoes threw off the similarity as much because there's no potatoes in that, but it really is such a delicious soup. We really enjoyed this so much. I highly recommend this recipe. Next time I make it, I'm definitely going to make some kind of like roll or something to go with it, because I think that would have been so good. Like, I love O'Charlie's rolls with their soups, so maybe I need to look for like a copycat O'Charlie roll recipe or something, and it would be so good to eat with this. So next up, we have egg roll in a bowl with wonton chips. So I've just got some onions I'm sauteing in a combination of sesame oil and rice vinegar in there. I'm going to add in a bag of coleslaw mix and some soy sauce. I didn't follow the recipe exactly on this one. I just kind of winged it a little bit on what I had on hand and what I needed to use up. So just in case you notice, it's a little different from what the original recipe is. But I've got some garlic I'm fixing to go in here. I'm just using those little cubed frozen garlic again. Those are so handy. I just get them at Walmart. And I'm also going to add in some ground ginger. Once everything gets in here, you're really just going to cook it down till it gets, kind of softened and sauteed a little bit. The cabbage will kind of wilt up a little and it'll be ready to go. So I'm actually going to also make some wonton chips. So I've just got some parchment paper here that I've kind of spread a little oil on, and then I'm rubbing that on there so that it doesn't stick. And this is my daughter. She's cut the wonton wrappers into pieces like triangles, and then she's just made a layer of those, and we're going to bake these. Actually, I started to bake them, and then my son said, maybe we should broil them. And I thought, yeah, that would probably work. So we actually turned the broiler on, and that worked out perfect. But be very careful, because it is so easy to burn anything on the broiler if you don't watch it carefully, but especially these because they're so thin. But I kind of wanted a little bit more of that egg roll taste with that crispiness of, like, that wrapper. And so these were perfect. I just spread a little additional oil on there and then kind of rubbed the oil around to make sure that it got on all of them, and just put them in the oven, and they were so good. You could even sprinkle a little seasoning of some kind on there if you wanted to too. That would be perfect as well. So we've got the egg roll in a bowl kind of mixture. It's pretty much done. I heated up some chicken and made some rice because my kids wanted rice as well. There's our wonton chips. And then here it is in the bowl. This was so good. They were really impressed with it. Just really had that egg roll taste to it. And especially with the wonton chips, you really had the whole thing. And this recipe was so quick and easy. I can't even explain it. Like, it helped that I had the chicken and everything, but it was so good. So easy. So next up, we have taco cups. So now I've just got a muffin tin here, and my daughter's helping me again. She always likes to make these taco cups. So she's got the wonton. There's 2 wonton wrappers, and you kind of offset them to where they make like this little cup, and she's just placing them down in here, and you just grease the pan before you put them in here. Now on another, I made jalapeno popper cups, and on that one we pre-baked the wontons, and that's good too. So I definitely would encourage either way, however you want to do it. She likes the chewiness of this, like, because the wonton wrapper doesn't get super crunchy, but it has kind of a little bit of chew to it, and so that's what we do on these. So if you want them crisp, pre-bake them though. So once she gets these done, we're going to get work on our filling. These taco cups are an excellent way to use up leftover chicken. Like, I know that a lot of times we make chicken or whatever, and then we have leftovers and we don't really want to eat the same thing. So it's so fun when you can turn it into something completely different. So I've just got my leftover chicken here. I'm just dicing it up to get about 4 cups of chicken. Now, please excuse my gloves. I actually don't usually wear gloves for cutting, just cutting up regular chicken like this unless it's raw. My hands were so dry this night that I had to wear gloves because I had to put lotion on my hands, or I wouldn't have even been able to bend them. If y'all have any great recommendations for something that really helps dry hands, I would love to hear it in the comments below. So I've just got that chicken in there, and then some corn that was drained, or actually I think I used frozen for that one, and then some drained and rinsed black beans. And I'm just kind of mixing that together. And I'm going to add some seasonings to this. Now, I've got like garlic powder, Mexican oregano, a little bit of salt, cumin, onion powder, chili powder, all that good stuff going in there. You can vary that again, like if you don't like something, or if you want to use taco seasoning, that would work too. So this is definitely, very flexible. And just make sure you get that all good and mixed so that seasoning coats everything. And we're just going to fill these cups. And once we get these full, you're going to actually top them with some shredded cheddar cheese. Now, I had a little bit of the filling left over, so that filling would make great filling for quesadillas, for tacos, for burritos, whatever you want to use it for like that. So if you have a little leftover filling, you can either make extra taco cups, or you can use it for something like that. And that's definitely handy even for like lunch and stuff like that. So once I've got all these covered with cheese, we're just going to bake them in the oven for about 10 to 12 minutes. You're just going to keep an eye on them and make sure they don't get too burnt or anything. And then they are so good. These are just, and they're so cute too. Like you just have such a little neat presentation. So now I will link that video where I made the Mexican rice below so you can have that recipe too. That stuff is really good. We really enjoy that. But we absolutely love these taco cups. They're so good and really easy too. So next up we have chicken pie. Now this was the first time I'd ever made this recipe. We're starting off with a can of cream of celery. I always get the healthy request version. It's a little bit better for you anyway. And I'm just putting that in the pot, and then I'm also going to add in 1.5 cups of chicken broth. Now you're just basically going to bring this to a boil, get it all incorporated together, it's going to make really almost what I would call like a gravy, and that's going to go over our chicken. So in another bowl, I'm working on the topping, which is 1 cup of self-rising flour and a cup of buttermilk. So it's super easy. You just stir that together. I have to say it was a little more liquidy than I anticipated, so I was kind of concerned. I thought, is this going to work? So it really was really good. So I'm so glad I tried this. But once you get that done, you're just going to kind of set that to the side. And again, just keep an eye on your soup. Once it starts to boil, you're going to be ready to use it. And then this was actually frozen chicken. So this helped because the recipe said you must cool the mixture after you pour it over the chicken completely before you can top it with the biscuit kind of mix, you know, the flour and milk. And so the frozen chicken helped that cool down really quickly. So while that was cooling just a few minutes, I went ahead and chopped up some veggies so that I could roast some veggies in the oven alongside this. So I've just got some carrots, and I'm also going to cut up some squash and get those going. I love roasted veggies. They're always so good. So, and it's a good way to get in some additional vegetables, especially with something that was kind of rich like this, which is, you know, kind of that more gravy kind of taste to it. But, and so by the time this, you know, I got all this cut up, the chicken mixture was completely ready. So it might take yours a little longer if you're not working with frozen chicken. So just keep that in mind. But once I get these cut up, I'm going to put them on a baking sheet lined with parchment paper. And I always drizzle my veggies with olive oil. And a lot of times I use like a garlic herb seasoning. But I have this vegetable seasoning that I wanted to try that is a salt-free. And so I went ahead and used that this night. And I thought since there's probably a lot of salt in the other part of the dish that this would kind of help save me some on that. So I'm just going to use this here. It's like a McCormick vegetable seasoning. And it was really good. We really enjoyed it, and it really did balance well with the kind of salt, a little more saltiness in the chicken pie. I will say, I also think that after having the chicken pie for the first time, that I even think it would be good to add in some maybe mixed veggies or something like that. Almost make it a little bit more like a pot pie. It definitely didn't taste exactly like a pot pie, but it kind of was a little reminiscent. It also kind of reminded me a little of chicken and dumplings because of that topping kind of was the way it was. But we're just going to go ahead and move back to the chicken mixture. It's cooled, so it's ready to go. And I was kind of debating on whether to pour this over or spoon it over. The recipe said spoon it over, so I kind of decided to do that. I wanted to make sure I got it kind of evenly. I almost wish there was a little bit more of the biscuit topping because it was so good. And then I've just got some really thin sliced pieces of butter. It talked about dotting some butter on the top of it, and so I've just kind of got that a little evenly over the areas of the, you know, flour mixture. So, and then you're going to bake that in the oven. It said for 45 minutes on 400 until golden, or until the crust is golden brown. Now I did bake that for about 15 minutes and then added in the veggies. So the veggies probably baked for about 30 minutes. And I actually ended up letting the chicken pie go a little longer just to get that good and golden brown on the top. And here it is. It's all hot and bubbly. So very good. It really is like comfort food. And like I said, it would be great, I think, even if you threw some veggies in there or something to bake with it. We really enjoyed this so much. So here it is plated up. You've got that true, like I said, comfort food there. And it helps you feel a little healthier by the roasted veggies. So that was good. I will definitely be making this again. And I don't know if I can find a link for this one. So if I can't, I'll write it out in the description box. So keep an eye out for that. But so good. Now we've got the apple cinnamon instant oatmeal cookies. Now raise your hand if you have instant oatmeal packets in your pantry that you have no idea what to do with, because I'm fixing to show you exactly what you can do with them. This recipe was awesome. So I've just got some butter, some white sugar, and some brown sugar going in here, and we're just going to cream those together. Now this recipe is so easy, and it's such a great use of those instant oatmeal packets. I had some cinnamon apple ones that I kept meaning to eat and never did, and so because I'm not a huge oatmeal person, so I looked it up and found this recipe, and this was perfect. So I just had an egg going in there, and now you're going to add 5 packets of instant oatmeal, and we're also going to add in a little bit of baking soda. Now you can change out the flavor of these instant packets. You just make sure you use the flavored kind, because the recipe already considers that there's sugar in the oatmeal packets, and if you use like just plain instant oatmeal, then you might not be happy with the result. But you could do it with all kinds of different flavors. My kids were like, can we use the dinosaur oatmeal? I don't know, we may do that another time. But you're just going to mix this together well. This was a pretty thick batter, and I almost got worried that it wasn't like, didn't have enough liquid. But it actually turned out to be fine. I also added some butterscotch chips. Now the recipe said 1.5 cups. I think I ended up taking it down to, I may have took it down a little bit from that. But I felt like there was a little too many chocolate chips or butterscotch chips, so you definitely might want to keep an eye on that. So like I said, these were pretty thick. I just scooped them out, and I actually missed the directions said that you're supposed to flatten them. So I actually have to pull them back out of the oven and flatten them because I'm so bad about that, y'all. I mean, I really am bad about missing stuff in a recipe. It's horrible. But so once you get all these on here, you will need to flatten them a little bit because they're just a different kind of cookie with all that oatmeal in it. And once you do that, you're going to bake them in the oven. This, again, if y'all have watched my video with the cake mix cookies, it asks for you to cool them on the sheet for 5 minutes before you remove and put them on a cooling rack. This one does the same thing, so I guess it kind of helps them finish up baking a little there. And this is after I pulled it out and I'm smashing them down. So y'all don't do my mistake. Make sure you smash them down before you put them in there, because they don't look quite as pretty when you do that because the chips had already started to melt a little bit, and so they look kind of muddled when I brought them back out. But it's okay. They still tasted good. I love the combination of apple and butterscotch, so to me this tasted amazing. And I love the chew from the oatmeal. These were so good and so easy, and a great way to use up those instant oatmeal packets if you've got any lurking in your pantry. So thank you so much for joining me today. I appreciate the fact that you spent some of your time with me today. And I always love to read your comments, so definitely feel free to leave me some comments down below. I always enjoy those. If you haven't already, I'd love it if you'd join my YouTube family. Make sure to hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you don't miss out on any more delicious recipes. And I hope you have a blessed day wherever you are. I'll see you in the next one.